Burgundy labels can appear to be some of the most daunting to understand. However, with just a few key pointers, it becomes a lot easier to consistently find your favorite wines. First is the producer of the wine. This could be a brand, someone's name, or the name of their estate or vineyards. With winemaking philosophies varying greatly from one producer to the next, once you find a wine you love, it's always a good idea to make a note or take a picture of the name behind that bottle. Next is the appellation. This is all about where the wine is made. How specific this is will be determined by the quality ranking of the wine. It could be as generic as the entire region of Burgundy or a single vineyard the size of a football field. The ranking of the wine will also always be stated on the label. Around 80% of Burgundy wines are classed at the basic regional level and are simply labelled as Bourgogne Rouge or Blanc. The next classification level up are village wines, which will state the name of the village that they come from, such as Meursault or Chambon-Musigny. The penultimate quality ranking is Premier Cru. These will also state the village they are from and often a specific vineyard as well. The top ranking and the pinnacle of Burgundy is Grand Cru, always from a single vineyard, which will be stated on the label. Unlike New World wines, nowhere on a Burgundy label will you see a grape variety mentioned. This is due to appellation laws that strictly govern what grapes can be grown where. So if you know the appellation, you know the grape. For example, if it's a Chablis, it'll always be Chardonnay. And if it's a red Beaujolais, it'll always be Gamay. The rest of Burgundy, almost all whites are Chardonnay and reds are Pinot Noir. Next up is the vintage of the wine. This is simply the year in which the grapes are harvested. The vintage really can be a significant factor, as every year has a story and often a struggle of its own.
So what, in your opinion, makes a great vintage?
If you have 10 kids and you ask me if there's one great kid among the 10 kids, it's a difficult answer. I remember of challenging vintages because we had work to do, which were not necessarily what the press would call a great vintage. On the other hand, a great vintage is a vintage for the press where everything is, conditions are perfect, which for us is not a lot of work. I like to think that each vintage has a personality. You don't need to quote a great vintage. You need to follow each vintage and to see like a personality.
Each grape is different and will ripen at different times, so a vintage that's fantastic for Chardonnay may end up being terrible for Pinot Noir. You'll find a number of other technical facts on a Burgundy wine label as well, such as the alcohol content or ABV. This can give an indication as to how rich or full-bodied the wine is, although the majority of wines from Burgundy will be between 12.5 to 13.5%. Other important factors may also be found on the label, such as whether the wine is organic, biodynamic, or even vegan. Some wines may also have tasting notes from the producer on their back label. As we all know, learning how to read a Burgundy wine label will give you key details about the wine. Ultimately, though, whether a wine is good or not is completely down to your own personal taste.
I'm a believer, and this is after 10 years of having written tasting notes on well over 130,000 wines. I'm a believer in the fact that whether you're educated in wine or not, we all have the capacity to know whether a wine is good or not, to know whether a wine is great or not.